now standing by to take us to Komodo Island. Our ship is at that wharf. It's on the far right-hand side and closer to shore. We're headed now for Komodo Island. Now, Komodo Island and dragons were really only discovered by Westerners, at least, about a century ago or so. Komodo Island is, of course, the place where the dragons are. And Komodo Island inspired a lot of stories. Now, one of the stories that this area inspired was the story about King Kong. The 1933 movie, especially King Kong, is said to take place someplace near these waters. Part of the reason for that was because of the orangutans in Borneo and the giant dragons here on Komodo Island.
There's our noon position. 2 south, 90 east. Now, you promised me some information when we reach these latitudes.
Way west of Sumatra.
And way out of any waters I know. I know the East Indies like I do my own hand, but I've never been here.
Where do we go from here?
Southwest.
Southwest? Well, there's nothing. Nothing for thousands of miles.
Keep your shirt on, Skipper. We're not going thousands of miles. Here's the island we're looking for.
Well, that position is... Let's have the big chart.
You won't find that island on any chart. That was made by the skipper of a Norwegian bark.
We must have been kidding.
No, he wasn't. Listen. A canoe full of natives from this island was blown to sea. When the bark picked him up, there was only one alive. He died before they reached port, but not before the skipper had pieced together a description of the island and got a fairly good idea of where it lies.
Where'd you get hold of it?
In Singapore, 2 years ago. The skipper knew I'd be interested.
Does he believe it himself?
I don't know, but I do. Here. Here's what the island looks like.
There were also other movies that were made basically inspired by Komodo Island, one way or the other.
Professor?
What is this Kamo you're setting out to find?
I believe the Kamo will prove to be the real cradle of civilization. Is it an island? Probably.
Well, how will you know when you found it?
When I find an island bearing the fauna of both Africa and Asia, I'll know I'm pretty close.
Fauna? What's fauna?
Animals. Lions, tigers, and cub reporters. Beatty brings them home from Timor. Primeval animals from a primitive place. He takes them wild and trains them.
Where's Timor?
Oh, who cares?
Well, of course, we care where it is. It's east of Bali. Komodo Island is east of the volcano Tambora that we've been talking about, but slightly west of Flores, which is why we flew to Flores in order to pick up a boat and go over to Komodo Island. And of course, the reason everybody goes to Komodo is to see the dragons. The dragons are, in fact, giant monitor lizards, the largest monitor lizards on Earth. For a long time, they were believed to only be a myth, until about the turn of the century, when some pearl fishermen were forced to land there and spend the night once in a storm.
Some fish and reptiles exhibit a trait called indeterminate growth. What that means is that they will grow rapidly to maturity, but after maturity they will continue to grow a little bit at a time for an indefinite period of time, as long as they can find enough food to eat. That means that they can grow indefinitely large. No, not that large.
Today, Komodo dragons can get up to around 10 feet long and weigh up to about 150 pounds. But this skeleton is of a giant monitor lizard that lived in Australia a very long time ago, and it's very closely related to the Komodo dragon. And it could have gotten up to 16 feet long. Now that extra 6 feet makes a big difference, because for every additional foot long that one of these things gets, it just about doubles its weight. This dragon could easily have weighed well over a ton. Now something is happening that never happens this time of year on Komodo Island, and that is the weather is changing. It's starting to get ready to rain. It's clouding up. It never does that this time of year on Komodo, and that's why I went during the summer, so that I would have good weather for this particular trip. Incidentally, that is Komodo there in the background. There are no facilities on the island for tourists. That is, there are no lodges. No one camps on the island. Nobody stays on the island. If you want to visit the island, normally what you'll do is you'll park your boat, you'll anchor your boat out here in this bay, and just wait for dawn. The reason for that is because Komodo dragons don't swim well. My guide told me that Komodo dragons can swim, and that when they bite their victims, they infect them with a bacteria. That used to be generally recognized as true, but 2 years ago they found the venom glands in the Komodo dragon. It actually is venomous, and I told my guide that. In addition, I said, although the Komodo dragons can swim, they can't swim well. And my guide agreed. He said that when they were doing a nature program not too long ago, in order to get film of the Komodo dragon swimming, they put him in a cage, took him out into the middle of the ocean, and dumped him in. And that's how they got videotape of a Komodo dragon swimming. Otherwise, they just don't normally do that sort of thing. As they swim, they sort of do the doggy paddle. They don't swim like crocodiles. Large dragons also don't climb very well, and so they had trouble getting on board ships, and that means you're pretty safe at night.
This infernal fog. Sure of your position, Skipper?
Of course. Last night before this fog shut down, I got a good sight.
We should be near the island. I'd think the whole population would be on the beach.
Listen.
Maybe they have spotted us and they're signaling. Well, Skipper, do you believe me now? There it is. Skull Mountain, the wall, everything just like on my funny little map. Come on, let's get started.
All right.
Oh, Jack, run along and deal out the rifles and ammunition. And get me a couple of Huskies to carry my stuff.
Stand by to lower away.
Monitor lizards are called monitor lizards because they're supposed to monitor or warn you of the presence of crocodiles. Actually, crocodile eggs are a major element in most monitor lizards' diets, and that probably explains the association. They have a very good sense of smell, absolutely excellent. However, their eyesight, well, they're a little bit nearsighted. You really have to get within, 15 or 20 feet before they can see very clearly. And their hearing has been thought to be poor. As a matter of fact, some people thought deaf. That deafness proved not to be true when a zookeeper was able to train them to follow oral commands, something that you have some difficulty doing with most reptiles. But take a look at that neck, how big and buffy it is. Most lizards don't have the ability to run for very long, and the reason is because their running muscles are the same as their breathing muscles. But monitor lizards do their breathing mostly with their neck muscles. The neck muscles act like a bellows, and that allows them to actually run down rabbits. It was just 2 years ago that scientists at the University of Melbourne happened to do an MRI scan of a Komodo dragon head, and they discovered venom glands. Up until that time, it had been widely thought that it was the bacteria in the saliva of the Komodo dragon that was poisoning the animals that it bit. But that turns out not to be true. They seem to have compounds that are very similar to Gila monsters and snakes, mostly hemotoxic. Now, when the crocodile hunter was visiting Komodo Island, that information was not known. In the crocodile hunter's episodes about Komodo Island, he says that they poison their victims using bacteria. And that's, of course, wrong now.
Komodo dragon welcoming party? Holy smokes, this is gonna be an adventure. Excuse me. I never really understood the potential danger that I was getting myself into. I never quite realised that these two giant goannas saw me as a food source. And as I approached, unknowingly, they just struck straight at me, going for my calf muscles, trying to pull them out. Their teeth are like razors. One bite, one laceration, and I'd bleed out and be dead in an instant. The smell of blood would send other dragons into a frenzy, and they'd come from everywhere. Holy smokes, that was too close. Hey, yeah. Let's follow them.
In King Kong, they were protected by gas bombs, but on Komodo Island, you use dragon sticks, these little sticks that have forks at the end of it. You poke the dragon in the nose, and he gets discouraged pretty quickly. Here's a demonstration of how that works. This is not entirely risk-free. I was told that this year there were 2 park rangers that were bitten by dragons. Now, neither one of them died. They got medical care right away, and although the venom is similar to a cobra's venom, it apparently is very slow. Now, what we're going to do on Komodo Island is to take a hike. That hike is going to go for several hours, and we're going to be going up country, up into the mountains. I have a particular place that I want to go to, and that they don't normally go to, so we had to pick up a special park ranger. Now, with a large number of dragons on Komodo Island, you would assume that there wasn't a whole lot of other wildlife there, but that would be wrong. In addition to deer like this guy, and there was a herd that we saw at least twice, there's also a water buffalo, and in addition to the water buffalo, they also have wild boar. And of course, there are a number of different kinds of birds, like this cockatoo, for example. Now, when Komodo dragons are very young, they're vulnerable. And the reason that they are is because Komodo dragons are cannibals. The large Komodo dragons will eat the small ones. In fact, they probably make up a substantial portion of their diet. And the result is that as soon as a Komodo dragon is born, it usually heads up into the trees. So we were looking up there to see if we could find any. We didn't see any really small Komodo dragons, however. We did run across a mid-size Komodo dragon on our trek up the hills. This next little bird that you see, it's about the size of a chicken. It's called a megapode, which means Bigfoot. It's on the other side of that brush there. And that's what digs out the nests that the dragons use. This should give you a better idea what it looks like. As you can see, the megapode does in fact have big feet, and it's those big feet that dig out those big burrows. Right now it's breeding season, not egg-laying season, and so those nests aren't being used. Although we passed a couple of old nests as we went up country. The march up country is really fairly extensive, and in some places quite steep. Nevertheless, after you get a certain amount of elevation, you can get a pretty good view of the surroundings. You can see we've come inland quite a ways, and we have a little ways yet to go.
In 1974, there was a Swiss baron, Rudolf von Reding, that came up on this hill on Komodo Island with his friends. He was 79 years old, and he got tired when he got to this point. And I understand that because I'm very tired and I've rested several times coming up this hill. Anyway, he told his friends to go on, and he'd wait for them here while he watched the view.
The view is magnificent from here, but this is also the place where the memorial marker is for Baron von Reding.
When his friends got back, they didn't see him anyplace in the area, and they called out, "Rudy, Rudy," but Rudy never materialized. They started looking around the area, and the only thing that they found of his afterwards were his mangled glasses and his camera.
Now, of course, the Baron may have run off with a Tahitian princess and disappeared off the face of the earth, but the speculation is that the dragons got him. The dragons don't leave a whole lot of evidence behind. Now, enter the villain of our story. With the exception of large snakes, monitor lizards consume prey faster than any other large predator, including lions, crocodiles, whatever. And they can swallow horn, hooves, antlers, hair, bones, everything. Dragons, like orangutans, usually live for a maximum of 50 years. And although dragons get to be 150 pounds pretty frequently, the record size for a dragon is 370 pounds. Oh, and by the way, if there are no male dragons around, the female dragons can, by themselves, produce baby dragons. A 100-pound dragon can eat an 80-pound wild boar. The locals call these animals a land crocodile, and they're surprisingly fast. They can travel 12 miles an hour for short distances. Dragons do kill people from time to time. June the 4th, 2007, a Komodo dragon attacked an 8-year-old boy on the island. The boy died of massive bleeding from his wounds. But that was unusual up until recently. The natives blamed the attack on environmentalists outside the island that are prohibiting the goat sacrifices. This denied the Komodo dragons their expected food source and causes them to wander into human civilization in search of food. On March 24, 2009, 2 Komodo dragons attacked and killed a fisherman on Komodo. He was attacked after he fell out of a sugar apple tree and he was left bleeding badly from his bites. He was taken to a clinic where he was pronounced dead on arrival.